Thrill Seekers. That was, of course, London Calling by The Clash. And I don't know if this is going to show up on the screen there. Really, my fingers are all jacked up from doing this. Pretty ugly, huh? That's the ugly truth of Zen, that your fingers get all jacked up from doing the intros. So, a couple of things I wanted to mention. June 11th, I will be at 11 a.m. at, Banyan Books, which you can get to by going to banyan.com/events. Somebody said they weren't getting that link. I tried it myself, and it worked. It's Banyen, not Banyan. So it's with an E. And the following Saturday, June 18th at 11:30 a.m., these are both Pacific time, I will be at East West Books, and the URL for that is very long, and I'm putting it on the screen. So just look up East West Books and Brad Warner, I'm sure it'll come up. So those are two live online events that I'll be doing in promotion of my new book, The Other Side of Nothing. So enjoy those. Go join them. Let's see what happens. Oh, I also forgot to say that my new book, The Other Side of Nothing, is now available as an audiobook from audible.com. So go to audible.com and get that audiobook. That's The Other Side of Nothing, audible.com. Now back to me. So here's the deal. I don't know what the deal is. That was London Calling by The Clash. Okay. So that's what I want to talk about. Not necessarily London Calling by The Clash, but something that was inspired by learning that song. So when I do these song intros, most of them, the way I learn songs quickly is I cheat and I go on YouTube and look for somebody who is showing you how to play the song. For the last 10 or more years on YouTube, you've been able to find all kinds of, usually teenagers, who are in their bedrooms showing off how they can play an instrument, and they'll show you how to play a song. So when I decided to do London Calling, because I like that bass line, the bass line was pretty easy. I mean, not that easy because I hurt my fingers doing it, but it wasn't technically all that difficult, and there weren't a lot of variations. There were a couple of variations, but when I went to make the backing track to play the bass along with it, I had to play guitar. And the guitar parts, when I looked up the guitar parts, those were all over the map. There was a kind of a standard thing that it's E minor, F, and G, and then a D chord at one point, and those are the chords to the song. But the way you play those chords was just all over the place. And every tutorial, there were several tutorials who claimed that they were going to show you the correct way, the proper way, exactly the way it's played on the record. Well, the problem is that the record contains a bunch of guitar overdubs. It's not just Mick Jones and Joe Strummer playing guitar. Well, I guess it's them, but they overdubbed themselves multiple times. And so what you get is all kinds of stuff going on, and if you want to play it yourself with one guitar, you have to do all kinds. Anyway, you get these impossible chords. The Beatles maybe were the first to do this. I don't know if they were the very first. Ziggy disagrees. He doesn't think they were the first. He says there were other people who did it before them. But anyway, they would do this thing where they would overdub multiple guitars, and you get these impossible chords. And the best example of that is the chord that begins A Hard Day's Night. And there is a way I learned to play that chord on one guitar, but in fact, that's wrong. I mean, it sounds okay. It sounds close enough, but it's not the way they play it. The way they played it on the record is George Harrison and John Lennon overdubbed themselves multiple times playing different chords. And so what you get, Ziggy, hold on. What you get is this chord that is impossible to play, literally impossible to play on one guitar. And so that's kind of what you get. Well, okay, so what's my point? What's my Zen point? I do have a Zen point here. The point is this. This kind of thinking about this process reminded me of how religions work, which is that, okay, in order for me to play that guitar part the way you heard it in the intro there, I just kind of took all the different versions that I found on YouTube and kind of mashed them up in my mind. And then when I actually came to play it, I was playing it in the upstairs room, which was really hot, and I was trying to get through it, and overdubbing these two. I just did two guitar parts, and I just kind of played sort of what I remembered seeing from several different versions. Ziggy, hold on. Can I do my video here? So I played the chords the way I'd learned it from several different versions of the people tutorializing it, teaching you how to do it online, and just kind of ended up playing my own version, my own variation. So it's like not even exactly the variations that I saw on different people's YouTube channels. This is what happens when you learn something. When you learn anything, is you're going to learn it your own way. And this goes for religions as well. So no matter how many people are out there saying, Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, He is God's only begotten Son, and no one comes to the Father except through Him, and I believe that. I'm not trying to pick on Christians, but religions that have a creed like that, every individual interprets that statement just a little bit differently, sometimes wildly differently. Sometimes the different interpretations of the statement will lead to different sects. So you have different sects all almost propounding? Anyway, saying the same thing, promoting the same thing. But they have different ways of interpreting it, and sometimes those form sects. But even it isn't just a sect. Every individual in that sect will still understand the belief system in a slightly different way. And that's just human nature. That's how we work. There is a book out there by Ramesh Balsekar, who is a student, or was a student, of Nisargadatta Maharaj. They're both passed away now, both Ramesh and Nisargadatta Maharaj. But Ramesh's book is called A Personal Religion of Your Own, or something like that. I've never read the book, but I like the title because I think, and I don't know what he says in the book, but if I were to write a book with that title, what I would be writing about would be how every religion is a personal religion of your own. This is why the Zen tradition doesn't value belief so much and doesn't value sacred texts so much, because there's only so much you can get from a sacred text, and no matter what belief you espouse, your belief is a little different. There's a sound coming from, it sounds like inside the house. Is that true? Ziggy, is there somebody in there? You think so? Okay, there was nobody inside the house. I think it was the dishwasher turning off, because I've never had a dishwasher before. Or I had a dishwasher in an old apartment I had a long time ago, but I never used it. Anyway, trying to figure out this dishwasher. I think it was the dishwasher turning off that made that noise. Anyhow, what was I saying? Every religion is your own, and this is why Buddhism doesn't value beliefs and creeds. Well, I should qualify that. Zen Buddhism doesn't value that, and a lot of other forms of Buddhism don't value that. But there are forms of Buddhism that value that, and I hear from them fairly often when I do these videos. I will say something that doesn't jive, is that the word? With the credo that somebody out there in internet land has learned as the truth about Buddhism, and they'll come at me like, you don't believe in the big one a few years ago, which I haven't heard from these guys for a while, is literal rebirth. You don't believe in literal rebirth, so you're not a Buddhist. And I don't know, I'm depending on what you mean when you say literal rebirth, maybe I do believe. I don't know if I believe in that, but yeah, I guess I don't believe in that because I don't know if I believe in it. But it's a belief system, and it's a set of words that you repeat, and you say, I believe this. I believe in literal rebirth. Well, what do you mean when you say literal rebirth? You could dig into that endlessly. And the thing a lot of religions do is they do dig into that endlessly. And Buddhism went through that patch in its own history in the sort of the later period of Indian Buddhism, just before the Muslim invasion came in and kind of wiped out Buddhism from India. There was a whole movement where people were really, really trying to dig into the minutiae of Buddhist belief and define everything. And there's a certain amount of literature that still exists out there that has these, incredibly elaborate definitions of everything, where they're trying to dig into, trying to really, really, get right into the nitty gritty and make that, make the statement that's exactly the right thing. You can't do it. That's the problem. That's what Zen as a tradition has abandoned. They've stopped even trying. They've stopped even trying to make their beliefs codified so that everybody's exactly on the same page all the time and is espousing exactly the same thing, because they realized you can't do it. It's impossible. You just twist yourself into knots for no reason, because everybody is still, no matter how absurdly minutiatingly you define the belief system, everybody believes it a little bit differently, and that's how it goes. That's how it's always going to go. However, there is a little caveat to that, which comes up in a verse called The Harmony of Difference and Equality, and this is the San Francisco Zen Center's version, the version they use, which I think is the version that was provided by the Soto Shu in Japan as their official English language version of every text. I think that's what the San Francisco Zen Center uses. Anyway, there's a line in here I really like, and it goes, "Hearing the words, understand the meaning. Don't set up standards of your own." That, I think, is really key, and it doesn't say much more than that. I mean, it doesn't say much more. There's all kinds of other things in that, in the harmony of difference and equality, but that's the only part that really addresses this issue. Hearing the words, understand the meaning of, like Ziggy's words. Ziggy, shh. Don't set up standards of your own. So, getting back to the Clash song that I played, even though the version I played for that backing track wasn't exactly the same as what's on the record on London Calling, it is recognizably London Calling. You know that's the song I'm playing, because I'm getting it close to right, but the minutia is a little different. And that's what we're trying to do in Zen. I think that what I'm espousing is recognizably Zen Buddhism, and recognizably from the tradition established by Dogen in the 12th century or 13th century in Japan. But it's my own interpretation. This is the thing that got to me when I asked Nishijima Roshi, "Why did you give me Dharma transmission?" He said to me, "Because you understand me perfectly." And I still kind of go, that's weird, because when it comes out of me, it doesn't sound like what Nishijima Roshi said. I don't talk about the autonomic nervous system. I don't talk about the four views all the time. These things that he talked about a lot. I say it in a different language, even though I'm speaking English and he was speaking English. It comes out differently. It's something else. And that's the way it's got to be, and that's the way it always is. So every religion is a personal religion of your own. That's the point. And every version of London Calling is going to be a little different from every other version. So that's how that all ties in. So there you go. That's the thing I wanted to say. That's the thing I was thinking about last night and this morning and trying to kind of come up with words for. There was another phrase, though. Let me give you this last one that came up from Dogen. He said, "You should therefore cease from practice based on intellectual understanding, pursuing words, and following after speech. and learn the backward step that turns your light inwardly to illuminate yourself. Body and mind of themselves will drop away, and your original face will be manifest. So he's saying, forget about the intellectual understanding, do the bodily understanding. He's in this, it's in Fukan Zazengi, or is it Fukan Zazengi? What is it? I want to tell you the right thing. Yeah, Fukan Zazengi. So he's telling you about Zazen in this thing and saying you do the practice of Zazen. And even the practice of Zazen becomes a little different from each person who does it. So, you know, your point of balance is a little different. And maybe that's where it is. There's always a point of balance, but the point of balance for each individual is going to be in a slightly different spot. So maybe that's the takeaway from this. I don't know. Anyway, if you want to contribute to me learning more bass parts and guitar parts and playing them on videos, you can go to the URL that you're seeing on the screen below, which is hardcorezen.info/donate. That is hardcorezen.info/donate. There you will find links to my PayPal and Patreon accounts. Those are my main and usually only ways of making a living. Make my new book a million seller, and I won't have to beg for money anymore on the internet, but for now I do. And but anyway, this is offered for free, so as always, you don't gotta pay if you don't want to pay. So pay if you want, don't pay if you don't want. And we will see you next time. Have a good time all the time. Bye. Hey Ziggy, what you chewing on? You got something there you're chewing on? Here, move the amplifier. Move the little tiny amplifier that I use to record these songs on. You can, no, you still can't see what he's chewing on. Okay, Ziggy. Say bye to the folks. Oh, he's trying to bite a fly. Okay, say bye. Catch a fly. Bye-bye.